Okay, so this section is going to be on writing and reading to and from files. Very useful.
Absolutely very useful.
So the first thing that we need to do to be able to read from a file is have a file to read from.
That is correct. So I guess the first thing that we would do would be to just create a simple file.
Sure, like a text file.
Like a text file. So we'll just do, start programs. I have my primitive Windows 2000 computer here. You like that? Alright, so I opened up our friend notepad here. So what should I write in this file, Bri?
Maybe just a list of names.
List of names? Like what? Like just a
Bob
first
Jones.
name? Bob Jones.
The next line, Frank Wilson.
Frank Wilson? Is that 2 L's or 1? I guess it's 1 L.
That doesn't much matter. And Earl St. Clair.
How about Jackson?
Earl St. Clair, you dog. 25 years I worked here and never once asked you for a raise. Dinosaurs TV show.
Yeah, I remember that. Should we do another name or just leave it at this?
Yeah, that's probably fine.
Okay, so I guess what we're going to do is read in from this file. We're going to read in the first name and the last name, and what do you want to store them as different variables, maybe?
We'll just print them to the screen.
We'll just print them to the screen? That'd be kind of cool.
Alright.
Alright, so I'm going to do File, Save As, and I'm going to save this in the directory that we're working in, the CPP directory, so that you can see it better. And we'll call it, I don't know, infile.
Okay.
.txt. Save it.
Alright.
Close it. Now we got to open up our little friend here. Dev C++. I am not amused. Okay, new source file. File, save it as, and we'll save it as input.
Sure.
Because we're going to do another one for output. Input.sp. So I'm going to just, I guess, build the skeleton. Well, I guess you're going to talk a little bit about how this works.
Alright.
Is that cool?
So we're first going to open a connection with the file. Then we'll start reading the file one line at a time. And we'll read the line, put it out to the screen, read a line, put it out to the screen, and we'll use a loop to determine how many times we do that. And when it finishes, we'll close the stream to the file, the connection that we have to the file. And that'll be a good illustration of how to read from a file.
Alright, now there's also different options that you can have from reading from a file. You can read it as, text? You can read it as a binary file.
You can read it per character, per line, per, whatever you choose.
But we'll deal with the simple text file first. Alright, so now with reading and writing a file, there's another header file that we must include. And why don't you tell us what that is?
Alright, so it's going to be the fstream file, so we're going to include fstream. So kind of like the input-output stream to input-output to the screen, this is a file stream. So this allows us to use the out file and file commands and things like that.
Right. I guess the first thing I would need to do would be to declare a data type in order to store this file.
Yes.
What is the name of the data type that fstream has for us?
So we'll do ifstream and the name of the stream that we want. So that's an in-file stream.
My stream.
Sure.
Now, ifstream. Now, remember how before we were talking about variables like int, floats, double. It's kind of the same thing, except for this abstract data type is declared in the fstream.
So now we'll point to our file. So at the end of the declaration of my stream, we'll add a couple parentheses with the name of the file.
Okay.
To point to it. And since it's in our directory, we don't really need to worry about where it's at. So it's going to be in parentheses, and then in quotations, the name of our file.
Okay, and that was infile.txt.
Yep. And so on the next line, we'll do an if statement, checking to see if it's open. If my stream dot is underscore open, parenthesis,
underscore.
So long as this is open, this is what we're going to do.
Okay.
So now there's a couple ways we could go about this. One way we could do, while we're not hitting the end of file, we'll run through it. But just for this, we'll do a quick for loop, since we know it's only 3 lines. So we'll do a for loop for int I equals 0, so long as I is less than 3, I++.
And then within this?
So we'll do a get line.
Ooh, get line.
Now before we go any further with this, we also want to include another library, which is the string library.
Right, for get line.
So this is the first time we've used it, and a string library, as we were talking about before, is just a collection of characters in a variable. So we'll see how it's used in a minute.
So pretty much every single time that you use the string data type or get line, include string anyways, because even though some compilers don't require it, some do. And
so it's just a good practice to.
It's a good practice because it's not going to hurt anything by having it in there at all. It's just going to make it so that your code will be more compatible with other compilers and other operating systems.
So now also before the if statement, let's declare the string, and we'll just call it line, the line variable. So we'll
string
do
line.
Okay, so now for the getLine command.
I'm going to highlight the new things that we're working on here,
okay,
if you don't mind. I'm going to make sure that this is highlighted. This line here, the if it is open, we have to make sure that we make note of this, and the rest of this stuff we recognize. So getLine.
So a getLine, and then in parentheses, my stream separated by a comma for the next input variable is line.
Okay.
So we'll get it from my stream and we'll save it to line. And then on the next line below
that one's bothering me.
So the next line below that, so as soon as we get a line, we'll print it to the screen.
Okay. We'll just run it real quick.
Sure.
F9. See if it compiles. And it do.
There we go. There's our 3 names. So that's pretty much the simplest way to open and read from a file.
All right. So there's another way we can do this, and what Brian had us do is we use getLine, and getLine is going to grab the entire line of the file. So what I can do is just to kind of show you this. Like I'm going to open up our output file. So what it does is it grabs this line, prints it, grabs this line, prints it. Now, what if we were interested in grabbing the first name and the last name and storing them as a variable? Like if we were reading in from a file, someone's information, like their last name, their address, their social security number.
We want it all in separate.
Yeah,
fields.
so we wanted to, instead of having it in one giant line, we could just grab them piece by piece.
Sounds like fun. Okay, so the first thing that will change here is instead of having the for loop where we run through it 3 times, let's just run through it while the file's open.
Right, so that way we can have as many names as we want.
Right, we could add like 5 more names to the list and it would still work just as fine.
Let's just do that real quick just to show that. So we'll do Kim, because we have to have a female in here. Kim Smith, Lauren Jackson, that's Earl's wife.
Yeah.
And let's see, let's do Jamie.
That's Earl's mistress.
Yes.
Jamie doesn't have a last name.
Oligness. I just made that name up. So we added a couple of names to this. So let's save that. All right. So what you wanted to do was get rid of the for loop here, right?
Right.
And how did you want to change this?
So we'll do it while my stream. So this pretty much says while our stream's open or while it's true.
Right.
And then it goes through its loop.
Okay. Should we just test it with getLine, or should we just?
Sure. Yeah, we can test it with getLine.
Let's see how that works. So it runs through, and you notice how there's another space at the end of the file? It's because I have a space. Yeah, so if I go back one, and the cool thing is I don't have to recompile this program. I can just run it again. I can go to execute and run. This doesn't recompile the program, and it will dynamically grab it. Oh, but we doubled up on the last one.
Oh, that we
Tell
did.
us a little bit about that. That is a limitation of going with
the
this
while
method.
it's open. Because it's still open the last time you run through it. And it'll go through one more time.
Yes. So the reason that I left that space at the end is just because I have done this a million times, and I just instinctively know that when you have a file, you want to make sure that you have at least one blank space at the end. Otherwise, it's going to double up on the very last entry in the list. So that is one of the disadvantages of using this method.
So we could do a do while, but it's really not important. So we'll just add that extra line back in the file.
Yes. I've often wondered why I do that, but now I know for sure why. It's just an instinct. Okay. Excellent. So, as of right now, we're grabbing it line for line. So I couldn't print out first name and last name.
Right.
So just to kind of mess with this example a little bit, let's do print the last name first, and then print the first name second. That way we could show that we're actually manipulating this data, because as we look at this file, it's going to grab the first name first.
Right.
But we're going to print it out in the opposite way. So I'm going to have you explain to us how we do that.
So instead of getLine, what we're going to do is we're just going to say myStream, and we're going to use the pipe function, kind of like we use cin pipe this way.
Right.
Cin, whatever it gets, pipe it to this. Cout, pipe from this.
This is a pipe.
Right.
Okay, so basically, when we do cout, we're saying take whatever this is and send it out to this. And this is the monitor. You can kind of look at cout as the giant object that is the main default output device. Now what we're saying with MyStream is take in from MyStream, which equals, I'm sitting here pointing at the screen, which equals infile.txt. So take from this file, which this is kind of like a copy of this, and put it in some variables.
Right. So now we want to set our first and last name variables instead of a variable that's just set for the entire line.
Okay, so we'll have string line. We'll change that to first.
Right.
And then do comma last.
Uh-huh.
So this will declare 2 string variables named first and last. All right.
So now we'll add, first we'll get the first name, and then we'll do another pipe. And when you do another pipe, it only, when we're doing it this way through the pipe, we're only going up until it sees a space, and then it stops.
Mm-hmm.
And then it gets to the next one, and it looks for a space or an enter, and then...
Yeah, it looks for a space or an end line.
So we'll do first, and then we'll do last. So get the first name, stop at a space, get the last name, stop at a space or enter. And then we'll output the last name. And then we'll output a little comma and a space. And then we'll output the first name.
Alright, so this should go in there, dynamically grab the file, print out the last name first, then the first name. F9, gotta recompile it now. Dun 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 dun, looks beautiful, except for we have that little dealie again.
Right. So as we see here, we again get the 2 repeated last names. We're not going to worry about too much about that now. Just kind of note that this is a limitation of this method of using the while loop. There are other ways to do it, but this is the simplest and quickest way, just to kind of give you a feel of how to read from files.
All right. Sounds good.
Okay, and in the next one, we're going to be writing to a file.